was a direct echo of that huge, graceless wilderness in Coming Up for Air, which you could read as a companion novel to keep the acid district flying, with Comstock, who kicks against marriage only finally to be caught by it, segueing into the bowler-hatted figure of George Orwell, the henpecked wage slave of Comstock's worst fears. On a train journey into town to get his new false teeth, Bowling surveys the mass of London and achieves a rare inner moment of calm, lyrical rhapsody. I quote, "I looked at the great sea of blues stretching on and on, miles and miles of streets, fried fish shops, tin chapels, picture houses, little printing shops up back alleys, factories, blocks of flats, weld stores, dairies, power stations, and on and on. Enormous, and the peacefulness of it, like a great wilderness with no wild beasts. Here, for a fleeting instant, is an impression of the industrial machine as an entity so vast and variegated it attains the quality of a benign natural environment. An illusion, of course, to use one of Bouling's regular refrains. In contrast to Comstock, Bowling wants to escape this dense urban landscape for a few days, leaving wife, kids, and the dread of imminent world war behind him for a spot of modest relaxation back in his hometown of Lower Binfield, beside the fondly remembered fish ponds of his early youth. Where Comstock hankers after impurity, Bowling craves a now distant purity. Where Comstock wants to burrow downwards into the abyss, Bowling wants to paddle upwards to find the ether. Just as with Comstock, though, the escape impulse has at its core something simple, brutal, animal, involuntary. There is a physical revulsion at modern life, and a yearning for something less oppressive. As it plays out, this urge acquires complex ramifications. In Coming Up for Air in particular, I'd argue that Orwell achieves a degree of sophistication in following his protagonist's conservative-minded bid for freedom, his minor odyssey into known territory, a sophistication that can be all too easily glanced over. Let's break down Bowling's humble breakout plans into bullet points. He wants to escape from a number of things that would make sense to a man in the street. 1, he wants to escape from his wife and family commitments. 2, he wants to get away from the rat race and the anxious financial concerns of the 30s that afflict all working men, not just married ones. 3, he wants to flee suburbia and what it represents, a kind of mental squalor, as he puts it. And 4, he wants to get away from thoughts of Hitler and the World War. He knows it's just around the corner. And what does he want to escape to? Well, 1, he wants to escape to the countryside and the traditional English market town he grew up in. 2, he wants to find a route back into the past so that whatever has changed, and he's not so naive as to assume nothing will have changed, he will regain a vivid sense of what once was. And 3, he wants to attain mental tranquility, which will be some substitute for the pleasures of the flesh he can no longer count upon. Broadly speaking, that is what he's running away from, and what he's aiming at. The bleak comedy of the novel, as bleak as Keep the Aspidistra Flying, is that the overrun nature of what greets him crushes even his most modest hopes. He knew that what he was escaping from could only be evaded for a short while, but whether it's the bombing planes flying overhead, the cold glares of women, or the premature summons home on account of a misunderstood wireless announcement, the holiday from those grim modern realities is cut short. Furthermore, what he has reached out for recedes from him the closer he gets. The countryside is being paved over. His beloved fish pond is a rubbish tip. The past, as O'Brien will later tell Winston in 1984, doesn't exist. And his state of mind becomes more restive. The noise infuriates him. The blank indifference to him upsets him, and he comes to regard himself as unreal, a ghost haunting the old places. Upon his return to West Bletchley, he wonders why he has made the trip, whether he has even made it at all. Quite, gosh, did I even understand myself? The whole thing seems to be fading out of my mind. Why had I gone to Lower Bloomfield? Had I gone? Coming up for air is a bit like a shaggy dog story. It's all build-up and no punchline. The last lines are a shrug of the shoulder, a rueful anticlimax. Except that it's a dark kind of non-joke, rather like digging a tunnel that leads you straight back to your prison cell. There isn't any air, following the mess in general, and that image of asphyxiation rings true to where the novel takes us, bowling, hemmed in on all sides. What I want to explore, though, is the fact that the novel does take him and us on a journey, from England as a series of details and impressions, to a cluster of ideas. The frustrations that Bowling encounters meet not only with an amusing line in exasperation, but also a notable mood of ambivalence. What's more, layered as the narrative is with the advantage of hindsight, Bowling reveals that in his heart of hearts, he knew he was headed for disappointment. He may be bluff, but he's not a buffoon. You could argue that subconsciously, he set out to escape towards the very thing he was ostensibly escaping from. In 1984, Winston Smith will receive a shock that is no shock, a surprise that is no surprise when he meets O'Brien in the Ministry of Love. You know this, Winston, said O'Brien. Don't deceive yourself. You did know it. You have always known it. Yes, he saw that. He had always known it. And coming off air, there's the straightforward reading, the surface reading. Bowling is the chap who wants to get away from it all. And then there's a sort of latent reading of him as the man who wants to confront the worst that there is.